Hi and welcome to the second on the Visio series. Okay, so in the last video we looked at how to put some basic shapes on the screen and how to connect them, or one way of connecting them. In this one we're going to have a look at a few other ways of doing similar things and how to edit the shapes in a bit more detail. So one thing we can do is look at another way to connect these shapes together. Now what you may have been familiar with from a previous version was if you click on a shape and then hold Control and select more shapes, then there was a button you could click on, or an option where you could connect all the shapes together in the order in which you'd selected them. Now that command seems to have disappeared, it's not in any of the ribbons. But what you can do is you can either create a custom ribbon and add it in, or you can add the button onto your quick access toolbar at the top here. Now adding buttons onto the quick access toolbar is very useful. So if we look at how to do that, if you click on the drop down here and then say more commands, now what we can do is we can choose from any of these commands to add on to our quick access toolbar. Now I happen to know that one was called Connect Shapes. Now it doesn't appear to be here. These are sorted alphabetically and it doesn't appear to be here. But that's because I'm looking at popular commands. Now if I choose all commands, you'll notice there are lots more commands that we could do. And if I scroll down to connect, connectors, connection points, loads of things that weren't there before, and you notice that one there, Connect Shapes. So if I say add, that's now added to the bottom of my list, which means it will appear on the right hand side of my quick access toolbar. I can use these buttons here to actually move it up or down to change it left or right in the position, but actually on the right hand side that's fine. If I now click OK, I've got that little button on my quick access toolbar. I have the shapes selected in the right order. If I click on the button, bang, they're all connected together. So that's how we can bring back that actually quite useful button. Not sure why it's not in this section here, because it's quite useful. Okay, another thing, you'll remember from the last video that I changed the text within a box. Now, a useful thing, once I've changed the text in another box, so if I have a variety of different bits of text in different boxes, rather than going through and formatting each one individually, I can select that step one that has the correct formatting and then go up here and choose Format Painter. Now if I just click on the Format Painter, I can paint the format onto a shape. I can then choose the Format Painter, click again, go back, choose and so on and so forth. Actually, a much easier way of doing it is select the format I want, double click on it, and now it stays lit up no matter which shapes I click on. And you'll notice that that's not going to fit there. So what we might want to do is we might want to make that one our master. So I need to click on there to close the Format Painter, double click on here, and if I just reduce that down just one click, that now fits perfectly. So what I shall do, I'll use that one as the master, double click and click on the others to make them match that one. And I need to either press Escape or click on that there to come out of the Format Painter once I've done the double click. Yeah. Don't just keep clicking in space, because you may click on another shape and change the formatting of that other shape. Okay, that works equally well if we put fills on the shapes. So for example, if I'd chosen a fill, let's just use that yellow fill there, and let's put a blue line around the outside as well. So you notice how it's now got a blue line around the outside, yellow fill and red text. So if I select that shape, the Format Painter is able to paint that format right across the board and Escape to come out of it. Okay, let me just take that connector off and move the end away for now, because a really useful thing is, rather than copying shapes from here, which will bring in a new shape in the same format as it is over here, rather than doing that, I can copy a shape that's on my screen. Now you'll notice if you watch my cursor, when I hold down the Control button, over the shape, I get a little plus next to my cursor. What that means is if I now click and drag whilst holding down Control, it gives me a duplicate of that shape, so I can now call that step 2. This works for multiple shapes as well, so if I hold down Control, select multiple shapes and then hold down Control and click and drag, I get a duplicate of the multiple shapes. Yeah. And equally, if I hold down Control and choose the selector as well, Control, click and drag, that will copy all of the shapes including any selectors that I put in there. What it doesn't do is give me the lining up commands, but it does snap to the shapes. Okay, so we've had a quick look there at how we can play around with some shapes and do some basic formatting. Also how we can add a button onto our quick access toolbar for connecting shapes. And for example here, let's connect them together. Click, they're all now nicely connected. And if I move that one up so it's perfectly aligned, yep, you'll notice how when it aligns with the top or the bottom, that connector is not straight, but I can actually drag it so it lines up, see, with the top, with the bottom, but also with the center, which is what I want because the connector goes from the center to the center, so that's now perfectly lined up. If I now click on that shape there and then that one in order and do my connector, it doesn't put the connector back on a connector that's already used, it does choose alternate connectors, so that is also quite useful. Equally, I could have just gone into the connector tool to do it, but actually selecting a whole bunch in the order in which you want to do them and then using that tool there is actually much more useful. Okay, that's the second in the Visio series. I hope you found that useful. I'm the Adobe guy, and thank you for listening.